We are recording.
All right. Okay, we will start this with a public hearing. Because of COVID and having some members, elected members and staff in person and the public participating by Zoom. To do a public hearing, what we are asking you to do is to open a chat box and tell the host that you would like to speak and whether you are speaking in favor or against the annexation that we're discussing here. And the host will unmute you and I'll introduce you and allow you to speak. Now, during this public hearing, the board will not address questions or concerns. This will be discussed as an agenda item later in the meeting. So anybody who is on right now who would like to speak either in favor of this annexation or against the annexation, please use your chat feature to request an opportunity to speak.
Mitch Freeman is the only one he's the only one online.
Okay.
Let me find Mitch here. There he is. Mitch, you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
All right.
So obviously I'm in favor of the annexation since it's for the lot that I own in Hammond Gulf Estates. I currently live in Riverview, just to the east. And anyways, the reason I would like my lot to be annexed into the city is so I can be on city utilities, you know, water and sewer. I originally was just going to stay in the county, but when JD Mackey, who was going to dig my well and septic for me, came to my lot, he said that the way that the land lays, that there was going to be problems with the septic system. So he recommended that I get an easement onto my cousin Caden to the west, which I have done verbally, which he's agreed to. So if I get annexed in, I would tap into the sewer to the west and along the water line to the north of my lot. I'd also like to add that I'm not trying to get around any city ordinances or to break any of the covenants of the neighborhood. I fully intend to go by the book in terms of the city building codes and in terms of the neighborhood covenants. I'm going to do all brick, you know, housing just like they want. I'm not going to try to divide the lot in any way. The house, most of you probably seen it, the foundation's already there. It's right in the middle of the lot, so I'm not trying to get around that or anything. I actually had already offered to Mr. Roast to go ahead and pay my building permit fee, which it's not allowed until I'm officially annexed. But I've got no problem with that. I'm not trying to get around the code. I think Mr. Fletcher has already been on my job site at least once unofficially. And so, I mean, I'm trying to do everything completely right. I'm not trying to get around anything. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Rick, do we have any other speakers?
There's nobody else even on, so he was the only one for that issue.
Well, with that, we will call the public hearing closed and we will open the regular council meeting. Can we start with a call to order? And roll call?
East Ward Alderman Rob Foster.
We've lost Rob, Natalie. I don't know about audio, but we have Rick. You may have to try to unmute him, but we've lost him.
Yeah, for some reason, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
For some reason, it said that the host had turned me off. But hi, I'm here.
Rookie mistake, okay?
East Ward Alderman Mark Bowers.
Here.
Mayor Natalie McNish.
Here.
West Ward Alderman Vicki Montgomery.
Here.
West Ward Alderman Stacy Lee.
Here. All right. And with that, let's have a moment of silent prayer or reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty
justice.
and justice for all. All right, and let's move into approval of the minutes from September 10th. This was in your agenda packet. Is there any questions, concerns, or changes that need to be made?
One change, the numbers that I received was 30 instead of 34. That were for an ordinance, a mask ordinance.
Okay. Anything else from board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve with the change requested by Vicky.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is our expenditures and financial reports. Are there any questions or concerns within this information? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a motion and second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And lastly, departmental reports are included in your packet. Are there any questions or concerns on those documents? All right, we'll move into unfinished business. And Michael, we'll start with your COVID-19 update.
Yes, good evening. So hopefully everybody got the copy of the report. So not as good news as none of it's been good recently, but not as good as we've seen the last couple of reports. So according to CDC, there's been a reported 6,916,216 cases in the United States. And there's been a total of 201,411 deaths thus far. Currently, Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services is reporting 118,311 cases in Missouri, which represents a 6.3% increase over the last 7 days. 1,952 deaths out of 1,259,531 persons tested in Missouri. World Health is reporting 31,664,104 cases worldwide, with 972,221 deaths in 260 countries. Currently, in Webster County, our numbers climbed significantly to 510 cases. And again, you'll see Missouri, if you look on the website, it's reporting over 600, but some of those cases have yet to be confirmed by the health department. So right now we're at 510 confirmed cases. 117 patients are actively ill. 24 are in the central region of Webster County. 5 patients are hospitalized. 390 is recovered. Approximately 190 are quarantined. And we've had another death, which brought our total up to 3 in the county. The county by county listing is provided there for you to look over. Up underneath assumptions, according to Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, Webster County ranks in the top 10 in the state based on percentage of increase in the last 7 days. It's at 19%. Yesterday we were at 5. Today it looks like we kind of tied with another county at 19%, which puts us at roughly 10 in the state. Cases of COVID are increasing in long-term care facilities and congregant living facilities, so meaning also to include, for example, prison over in Portland. We're starting to see nursing homes and other congregate facilities having a rather significant increase in COVID. Local emergency services are beginning to feel the impact of the pandemic. We are seeing some cases being developed in emergency workers in the county. Local health department staff are having difficulty keeping up with the increased number of cases in the county and are reaching out to local and state resources for help with that. And then Greene County is reporting an increase in COVID-related deaths. I've also heard that the hospital COVID units are also seeing an increase, but I don't have those statistics. As far as the advisory committee, we do have a drive-through test set for September 30th from 9 to 11 at the fairgrounds. We've set the first one for October 12th, also from 9 to 11 at the Webster County Fairgrounds. I hadn't called Mark about that one yet, but we will be looking at October 12th again at the fairgrounds. And some guidance regarding best practice for upcoming Halloween holiday are being considered by the committee, and hopefully we'll have something forthcoming to you all in the very near future. Probably everybody's heard that the governor's office has announced that Governor Parsons and his wife actually have tested positive for COVID-19. Looking at the statistic change, cases increased by 223 from the numbers I reported to you at the last report. Active cases increased by 67 from the last time, and persons quarantined increased by 57. Under prevention measures, I did add under number 9, I did talk about mask usage, and I think it's important for us to reiterate is it not only important for people to wear masks, but to wear them properly. Look at masks with at least 2 layers of fabric. And what I see frequently, and I think everybody does, is make sure that they're covering their mouth and nose when they're wearing those, and make sure it fits without gap. As for recommendations, cases continue to increase in the county. As I stated earlier, Webster County currently is in the top 10 in the state based on percentage of increase in cases over the last 7 days, with the city of Marshville accounting for approximately 21% of the active cases in the county. For these reasons, I recommend that we leave the restrictions and recommendations that we have in place. And then second, with the Halloween approaching and the possibility of children trick-or-treating and community events such as trunk-or-treat events being held at businesses and churches, I think it's important that the potential impact of those activities be discussed and best practices be encouraged as they become available. That's the report that I have for this evening, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Michael.
All right.
So I did email Karen the report that I've been giving you. It doesn't say anything different than what Michael's report, but I've been providing that each meeting. So I provided that again. Also, you were recently emailed a letter, a copy of the original executive order and an amendment to that executive order. The amendment is what we talked about earlier by allowing partitions to go between booths. And the letter is written to be addressed to all business owners within the city limits. Our plan is to email that letter, the original executive order, and the amendment to all business owners that we have on file, kind of as a refresher, a remembrance of what it is, why it's there, and what we are already asking our business communities to do. And then we are separately going to mail a hard copy of that order and letter and amendment to those businesses which have booth seating. So that is our plan going forward. This should go out tomorrow. So hopefully that will help as a reminder of what the current order does say and why we're wanting that. Is there any other COVID-19 related information? Okay, with that, we'll go to a parks update. I did change this on the agenda. It's been a pool update forever. The pool is closed. So now it is a parks update, which is where I plan to leave it. And because it's been a pool update, we've had it at every single regular session meeting. In our normal fashion, departmental reports come at the end of the month. So it's my plan that the parks update will be given at the end of the month meeting as well. So Mark, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, excellent. The first thing I see up here is the CSOP, the Safe Room Operations Plan. What I've done with that is add in some verbiage that identifies our community safe room as a dual purpose facility, meaning that we can plan recreation programs out of it. I went ahead and researched this pretty thoroughly. And what I did was I went ahead and solicited verbiage for these changes from 3 different sources. The first source I used was the FEMA guidance document for community safe rooms. And that led me to the dual purpose safe room operations plan example that FEMA gave, which just happens to be Fair Grove. You know, not too far away from here. So that was a good document that I took verbiage models from. And then lastly, Jasper County has a dual purpose safe room that they use, and their verbiage followed pretty closely with what Fair Groves was. And again, Fair Groves is the model that is recommended on the FEMA website. I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I added 6 different small additions to various sections within this plan, and I will not read those unless you'd like me to.
Just a summary.
It's basically saying that we will take responsibility for programming in there, and that our programs will be on heightened alert anytime that there is a weather update and that there's a weather watch, and we will alert our on-site people and be ready to either not program during that time or conclude programming that is currently taking place in order to make ready the safe room. That is goes along with the model that was from Fairgrove. And the other issue that Chief Taylor brought up was that the door, the main entrance door, if that is opened with a key, that door is no longer accessible from our dispatch. So there's verbiage in the plan that says that we will not use a key to open that door for any reason. There are 2 other points of entrance and exit that we will be using, and we will train staff accordingly. Lastly, we have said that we will not disrupt or disturb any of the supplies that are on hand for the safe room, but rather we will bring in our own supplies, our own cleaning, our own restock, and our own cleaning carts. And after every program, we will make sure that the safe room is clean and in a usable state in case of emergency. And then we added ourselves, I added 2 positions to the safe room positions list, the key staffing positions. And those positions are called, let's see here, secondary programs managers. And I added myself as the primary and recreation coordinator Diana Schumann as the secondary.
Awesome. So this came about in a parks meeting, a great idea that generated as we were determining where, location-wise, where could we put new programming. And A Parks Board member asked, well, what about the safe room? And Mark's pretty well taken this from there. He did all the research on this, and he's gotten everyone buy-in, including Michael's on this. And then from there, him and Diana have actually already done the planning and are ready to go on some programming. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So we would be able to start utilizing this space on a more full-time basis, just as soon as we have approval of the changes to the plan. Are there any questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the new CSOP.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Next item.
Okay, the next item on the list, I believe Monica is going to present.
Okay.
So you should have a list of our COP balance, which is $110,402.67. And then there was a COP purchase list that Mark had provided at the August 27th meeting. So that brings the COP balance, that would bring the COP balance down to $86,083.06. And then below that, I show what we have spent out of our cash funds for building the aquatic pool from the beginning. So we had engineering from 2017 through 2019 of $445,376.55 out of the restricted parks fund. And then we were budgeting and paying for the water and sewer and transportation fund or expansion of those. We would split 50-50 out of those funds and then the restricted park fund. So you'll see the $303,053.74 out of the restricted parks, and then the respective other funds that have paid. And this is out of our cash fund. So you had discussed at a previous meeting using the COP balance to reimburse the transportation fund. And so we're looking for the approval for the COP list, as well as reimbursing the transportation fund, or if you choose which fund to reimburse.
Does the city have a recommendation on what we should be reimbursing? Where this would be best utilized? Sam or?
Yeah, I think I'll let Monica give her opinion as well. But we have several large transportation projects that we're working on, and that we have in the hopes of completing in 2021. And so my recommendation would be to definitely reimburse that fund if you want to split that between multiple funds, that fund and the restricted parks fund, that would be fine and appropriate. But I would make sure that we put some money back in that transportation fund.
I would agree.
Rick, I think Rob's been muted again.
There he is.
There we go.
So Sam, give me some advice here. I mute myself when I'm flipping the pages, but when I do that, I can't get back on unless the host. Okay. Well, I may not mute, and I apologize. You're going to hear ruffling of pages, but with no more people than we have on here, Rick, why don't you go ahead and go into that section down there and allow them to unmute themselves, and then Rob can control that. It's really a safety precaution whenever there's several people on the call. Yeah, that's totally understandable, and I'll understand if you've got to do it differently.
So as soon as Rick can get that setting changed, Rob, you should be able to mute and unmute.
Okay, I'm just afraid that being this close to my computer mic, it would be disturbing for everybody.
Yep, nope, completely understand.
They should be good to go.
Got it.
Any further discussion on where the COP balance needs to go?
Support the city recommendation.
Okay, so is that a motion to use staff recommendation?
Yeah, I would so move.
Second.
Okay, all in
And so-
favor?
Natalie, if I could, so to make it clear,
Yes.
we're talking about reimbursing the remaining portion of the COPs, all of it back into the transportation fund. Is that correct?
I don't know. So is that what it would take? Because I see a transfer. Let me make sure I understand where we are ending up here. Do I understand that we actually have a balance right now of 110,402?
That's correct.
And the transportation fund is 101,305?
Yes. But the 110,000 does not include that list that Mark had provided for the items to be purchased. Those items were,
That would drop it to 86,083, right?
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I just wanted clarification for us that one, that you're approving Mark's list of expenditures, and then what we're actually doing with the remaining funds.
Yeah, so we'll have a little bit of a balance. Yeah, no, I say let's go ahead and let's get it paid down. So then if you were asking for a clarification, let's just go ahead and, unless Monica, you have other advice, I'm certainly open to that.
Now, my advice would be the COP purchase list and then the transportation fund.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
A first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is an appointment to the park board. I would like to appoint Marissa Huffman to the park board. She had a degree in mass communications and background in marketing. She came to me interested in finding a way that she could serve the city. And I know from being on the park board and with working with Mark that he has a great interest in getting the marketing side of parks up and running. And I think she'd be a great fit to help with that, not just that specific goal, but definitely that one. So I am looking for approval to appoint Marissa Huffman to the park board.
Second.
Okay, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And park property transfer to the fire district. Sam?
So you guys should have three options there in front of you. The site selection committee that we've met multiple times, met out on site, looked at this area and really felt like this was the most appropriate area on the property that we own. You guys will remember that part of the fire department agreement was that we would dedicate, or we would basically deed over 3 acres for a new fire station, and what is anticipated to maybe be the headquarters or a headquarters building for the fire department down the road. And so when you jump into the different options, if you look at option 1, what I really want to draw your guys' attention to is the road frontage. So if you look at the road frontage, there's approximately 300 feet of road frontage there. This is these options that they're not going to change a whole lot except for looking at the shape of that pie. Option one would allow us to still have access from CC, which at the end of the I-44 project, we will own that road at that point. It will no longer be a MoDOT road, so we will control access in and out. So the multiple driveways that was talked about and enough room, this would accommodate that and allow us to still access our property. It would, however, require us to come in kind of on a skew And so this option, I'll just upfront, option 1 and option 3 were the preferred, option 3 being the most preferred. So I'll jump into option number 2 real quick. I really wasn't a fan of this. This really cuts down on our access and our availability to really be able to access our property without really coming in and taking a hard turn. Right? I really don't think that there was none of the comments that I received back from anybody on the committee was in favor of this one. So unless somebody's got questions on that, I'll move on to the third one. Option 3 seems to be the most popular among the selection committee, and this would be my recommendation as well. What you see is along that western portion, I'm sorry, you still have 100 foot of road frontage, which would still be big enough big enough for a good sized driveway and access in and out. Also, don't get hung up on where the surface road is now. Obviously, that would allow us to come off of CC there and put in a service road right along where you see that 310 foot measurement. If we wanted to, it really leaves it open to whatever we want to do, and it's less restrictive. The one thing that is not accounted for in here is I met with member of the fire board, and they took this to their board. This option 3, they believe that they can make that work, and that would accommodate their needs. The one thing that they talked about and that I walked through with them is that they're requesting a utility easement, basically in order to be able to hook onto the sewer back there at that lift station. And so what I envision that being is somewhat of a 15 feet permanent easement across our property for access to that lift station. They would not actually be dumping directly into the lift station, but into the gravity line that feeds into that lift station. So with that, I myself as staff, I would recommend option number 3, and I don't see any issue with giving them a easement across our property to be able to service that with sewer. The water is a little bit different story. You can't see it on this. But for you that are familiar out there, there's a church just up the road, just to the west of that. Water stops right there. I have had conversations with the fire department, and they understand that water is not readily available there, that if and when they get ready to construct, that would be something that they would have to address and extend the utilities out there. We'll look and see what that looks like when it comes time for that expansion. But we would want to visit our own utilities out there when they get ready to do that improvement.
Okay. Any questions on the 3 proposed plots?
I will throw out there
3.
Number 3, okay. Do we have a motion for number 3?
Yeah, that's what I did motion. Yep.
Sorry, second?
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? All right, thank you. Next item is the new City Hall update. And Sam?
Show Me Power has they've got their figures back in to go over for this training. We've been working through some other issues, trying to get things ready so that we can get together and meet with them. We do have, like I said, we do have the finalized numbers. Want to sit down with them and get a presentation ready for you guys to come back to the board at a future meeting. Hopefully, possibly even the next meeting. We'll see. Just a reminder, the reason why Show Me plays into a part with the new City Hall is that fiber ring and improvements that are necessary for our network and for our fiber. That's not all contingent on just the new City Hall, right? I think we've had this conversation before, and I apologize for not being able to make it clear, but those improvements need to happen regardless whether that city hall goes in. But obviously, it does change the scope a little bit if City Hall moves up there. So it needs to be a part of that conversation. Monica and I have worked on some financing options for the new City Hall and for what that looks like. And so I believe Natalie will be talking about that at the next meeting, correct?
Absolutely. So we plan to have the full update provided next meeting, next regular session meeting. That's another reason why that meeting may be quite a bit longer, because as we'll talk about in future agenda items, that'll also be our first budget meeting as well. So at this time, because we asked city staff to prepare budgets before we got to have that discussion, the first budgets that you are going to see come out to you, they have a line on them that says new City Hall or something along that line, the City Hall project, but there are no numbers in them. And the reason there are no numbers in them is because I have directed them not to fill those in until we have an opportunity to look at what our options are and evaluate what risk we are willing to take and to factor into this year's budget. So those first budgets that you're going to receive tonight or tomorrow, Sam?
If they don't have them before them tonight, then they'll be delivered. So I'm assuming that Monica probably handed them out tonight, and if not, Rob will be delivering yours tomorrow.
I've got them handed out in front of everybody that's here. And then
Okay.
we'll get them out.
Thank you, Monica. But that particular item on those budget will not have a number, and it was my direction that they not do that until we had this discussion in the next meeting. So with that, we don't have anything else to go with there, so we'll run into the city administrator search. I wanted to give you an update. We have received 12 resumes, 12 different applicants. The posting will close September 30th. I do expect we normally get 3 or 4 a week, so I do expect that we'll still receive a few more. My plan is that once the position has closed, we will put all of the documents that were received on a shared drive and provide each board member and myself with access and Karen with that access. And pardon me. That way you can start looking through and making notes. We do need to set a special closed session meeting to go over these and filter these down into our select applicants for interviews. I was hoping for perhaps October the 5th or October the 7th. That's a Monday, a Wednesday, and this can all be done by Zoom if necessary, or a combination thereof. Do we have any availability on those dates?
You said the 5th or the 7th?
Correct.
I wouldn't be available the 5th, but I would be the 7th.
Okay. Anyone else on the 7th?
Sure.
Yeah.
Would that work? Is there a suggested time? Our normal 7:30?
Sure.
That works.
Okay. So we'll have a special closed session meeting on October the 7th at 7:30 p.m. to discuss the applicants for the city administrator position.
And can I get some clarification? Do you want that via Zoom or in person? It just depends on how I set the invite.
We'll have it open for either,
Okay.
just in case somebody needs that availability.
Okay.
And with that, we'll head into new business. And Sam, do you want me to start with tonight's new business with a justification clause?
Do what now?
With the water?
Oh.
You want me to open up an emergency discussion item with a justification clause?
We can we can probably close it up with that if you want to.
Okay.
There's not much going to change, and we do have a couple guests on here, so if we want to get them going, if you don't care,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So our first item in new business is the application for annexation. we have had the public hearing tonight on that. Is there any discussion or question on the application? Does look like the property owner is still here.
I move to approve.
Okay, then I will read the bill. Bill number 2020-61, an ordinance annexing certain adjacent territory into the city of Marshfield, Missouri.
Move to approve.
Second, okay, roll call, please.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery. Yes. Lee. Yes.
Okay, second reading. Bill number 2020-61, an ordinance annexing certain adjacent territory into the city of Marshfield, Missouri.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery. Yes. Lee.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Freeman, welcome to the city. And Mel, going to tell us about the TEEP grant?
Hello.
Bill.
Hey, can I share my screen?
Hey, Rick, go down to share screen, and it should give you a little arrow, an up arrow, and you'll have to go into advanced settings, and then you'll have to allow everyone. Do you see it?
Advanced, oh, nope.
You don't see it? Oh, there you go.
Is that the right one?
Is that, Mel, do you have your screen up, or? No, you should.
Yes.
Should have to select the participants or everyone. It should be the option. Should be host only, and then there should be a different option.
All participants,
Yeah.
okay.
Now can you try to share, Mel? Will it allow you?
Can you guys see that?
Give it. Yep.
Okay. So I just want to talk about this TEEP grant, and I'm not sure that all of you are around when we applied for this. But back in September of 19, we applied for a grant to study these two areas that you see, study area 1 and study area 2 over near the school. And it's through a TEEP grant, which stands for Transportation Engineering Assistance Program. And so essentially, it's a program that MoDOT has. It's an 80-20 program. They pay 80%, you pay 20%, so that they can help you with traffic engineering. And so one of the areas is right here, area 1, which is Jackson Street, Elm Street, and Schoolview Drive there, and then also the actual road going into the elementary school there. So that's one area. It's got some traffic problems, as I'm sure you guys are aware. And then the other area that we study is closely related. That's this area 2, which would be Elm, DD, St. Charles. You got a offset intersection there. So what we do is we would, what the grant allows us to do is to go out there and do traffic counts while school's going on, and we'd get like an AM and a PM peak traffic count and see how those movements work. And then we would do an analysis based off that data and then come up with a suggestion on how we might fix those intersections, and come up with a concept for that, and then come up with a cost estimate for that. So anyway, that's what we applied for back in September. You guys have been awarded that grant. And the way that was set up is it's a $10,000 study. $8,000 would be from MoDOT through the grant. And then you agreed with the county that you guys would go 50-50 on the match. So it would cost you guys $1,000 and it would cost the county $1,000. And so, so like I said, we've applied for this, you've been awarded this. And so now what we need to do is to do 4 different things if you guys choose to move forward with this. And you can do some of them today, but you can't do them all today. One is that you need to select your engineer. We filled out your application and helped you with that, but you don't have to choose us. There is a pre-approved consultant list of people that can do this. We went through, with MoDOT, we went through qualifications, and our firm was picked as one of the firms that could do this work. And so you can just pick off any firm off that list. And so if you choose to do that, you just basically have to say, hey, we've elected to use Great River. They're on the list, and notify MoDOT of that. And then if you do that, then there's a consultant agreement between us and the city that you would sign, and I provided that as well. So that's 2 things. The third thing is that you would need to, which I don't think you guys are set up to do this tonight, but if we move forward, I'll help you guys get the paperwork in place for this. Maybe we could do it at your next meeting. Is that you need to sign a program agreement with MoDOT, and they provided that for us. But we also, along with that, you have to pass an ordinance giving the mayor the authorization to sign that programming agreement. And we've got the boilerplate for that, but that needs to be filled out. So, so that's kind of where we're at. So it's been a while since we first talked about this, but now it's time to do it. If we can get it in place in the next few weeks, we can get started on it while school's still in session before the winter break, because the project has to be complete in March. So we have to finish the study in March. Any questions?
Staff's, hey, Rick, I don't think that they can unmute themselves still. Just an FYI, staff's recommendation is to move forward with this, and we recommend to move forward with Great River as our engineer off of the pre-qualified list. Rick, I think Natalie and Rob are both still muted, I think.
Rob should be.
Unmuted.
Yay.
Okay, so on this, we need to come back at the next meeting to do most of this, it sounds like.
Yep. So if you guys would,
I've got a question for Mel. He asked, and now that I'm unmuted, let me ask that, Sam. What's entailed? You said it's got to be completed by March, and so Mel, what's entailed in the sort of what would be done in the study, the engineering study?
Well, we would first go out there and do traffic counts during AM and PM while school's on, and that would give us updated account information for these intersections. Those currently don't exist. Then we would run a traffic simulation analysis on that data and just see how it works right now. And then we would come up with a concept of how to make that better, a cost estimate to construct what we would recommend, and then we would document that in a report.
So in your mind, is we're looking at 2 different areas, but I think we're clear that that's because it's not just the that they're 2 similar type of situations, but it's also the proximity may entail a combined project. Is that fair to say? A solution that we would be after, and I think what I'm trying to do is put forward that my expectation would be that a study here would entail a solution that deals with both situations. Is that what is your anticipation also?
we will give a recommendation for both areas. You know, it may be that you could do one and get some improvements while not doing the other, or phase it. But we would anticipate providing a solution for both.
Okay.
And just a reminder, this is a very, it's not a very large grant, right? And so the amount of detail, Mel, I don't know if you can give them any kind of expectation, right? But it's not super encumbersome, right? As far as covering just any kind of long scale final design.
So that leads to my second question, which is, what is the value of this for us moving forward? Because it doesn't obviously do the construction. It doesn't remedy, right? So how far does it go in terms of, Sam, of a value? Does it more than anything? This is a question, right? Is it really just to say, well, potentially this either justifies a full-on study and engineering, or there is nothing justified? Do you follow me on that question?
I do. I'd probably answer it this way, Robin. Let me just be candid and let me know if this does or doesn't. So this area, the Elm and DD area, the hard right, the 90 corner.
Yeah.
That area is identified on a statewide project list. You might remember seeing that from SIMCOG. It's actually on our TAC committee list.
Right.
It is way down on the list, right? It really is. There's some things that put things further down on the list. Some of those are prioritization. Some of those are traffic counts. Some of them have done more legwork to put behind it to elevate it to a certain point on the list. This would put us in a better position to, with this being a MoDOT route,
right?
That would score better if we were to ever apply for anything that we've already through this portion of it. We have identified, we have came up with some kind of concept that for us to consider, we're not starting from scratch. Does that answer your question at all?
Yeah. So you see the value in it. You see the value of the expenditure of the dollars then to do that.
I do.
And it's not something we do because we all already know it's an issue and a problem.
We do.
We want to make sure that we're doing more than spending money to say what we already know.
So we know there's a problem there, and so that's what sparked on this location for the grant. And so what we don't know is the in those shaded areas, what are the concepts or what are the possibilities? Who are our partners? I mean, obviously, us, possibly MoDOT on the other one, possibly the school, right? And so what this would do is it would allow us to see what would fit and possibly even what MoDOT would allow within their proximity, right? And so, because they only allow certain type of improvements with certain site distances. And so this would give us at least concepts. I wouldn't say that it would get us to where we could go, okay, we want option A or we want option C, but it would give us those options that we could potentially be striving towards.
So one more quick question, and the answer to this may satisfy me completely, right? This is a MoDOT program, right?
Yes.
So, and they would, along with this program, do they put forward expectations from what the outcome of this is?
I'd have to.
In a certain way, because they're putting the money forward for this particular type of a study, they probably, I'm guessing they probably have, if not a lot of input, maybe even as far as the guidelines. Okay, well, if we're going, because they're spending more money than we are on it, so they probably, and maybe Mel knows the answer to this question, right? But go ahead, Mel. You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, this was a competitive grant, and it submitted. What we did is we looked at the available money. $10,000 is the most we can get for one of these grants, and so we were like, "What's the biggest bang we can give the city for that $10,000.
Right.
And what's the most we can do to maximize that value to the city. And so we wrote that up in the grant application. It was competitive. We submitted that scope of work that I've been talking about, those items that we'll do. That was
Sure.
part of the grant application. So I think the answer would be that they've awarded the grant based off of the understanding of what will be done, and they see the value in it, or we wouldn't have got selected over other
Okay.
applicants.
Yeah, well, that speaks volumes to me, really.
Okay. Is there any interest in seeing the list of approved engineers, or because GRE's already done so much of the footwork on this and has so much familiarization with the grant itself, are we looking for staff to bring back documents to approve Great River as our engineer?
Fine with Great River, but I do have one question.
Okay.
How quickly will the traffic study be done, just in case the facilities that create all that traffic close their doors for a time?
We'll get out there within, we'll have to schedule, but we'll get out there within a couple of weeks of getting all the authorizations in place.
Okay. So do we have consensus on bringing documents back for GRE?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. I can't quite see the table for consensus. Okay, thank you. All right, then we will bring that back in the next meeting. Thank you very much, Mel.
Okay, appreciate all of you. Have a good evening.
No. Thanks, Mel.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is economic development incentive policy. So a project that I've been lucky enough to work on with Dwayne Lavery in Grow Marshfield has been my wish to have some education and some foundation underneath us in order to go into the depths of economic development and incentives with our future growth areas, and really build a foundation underneath ourselves so we understand what is available, what are the pros and the cons of each option, what effect will it have on our cities and our stakeholders. So there are certain programs that can affect school districts, and there are other programs that affect very specific citizens. And so there's a whole lot out there. And what we did very first thing is Dwayne got us in connection with Stiefel, right? Am I saying that right, Dwayne? Stiefel?
Yes.
Okay. So we had a long discussion with Matt with Stiefel, who's of course connected to our bonding council, Gilmore and Bell, and kind of went through what Marshfield has already done and where we're at in economic development at this point, and what are those next steps, and how do we get that education element so that we pull all these options out of the shadows and really feel like we understand them and can move forward with any of them or absolutely none of them. So the first thing that he asked me was, well, does your city have an economic development incentive policy? And of course, my answer was, I don't think so, but I've been here about 3 months. So anyway, he sent the policy that is included in your packet. And the only reason that policy is included in your packet is just planting the seeds of where we might get to in this process. Dwayne is working with many other agencies to put together an educational piece, which will hopefully be available, I'm hoping late October, early November, Dwayne. Is that still what we're thinking?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. And the hope is that we're going to have all the members of GROW and those major stakeholders, but we're going to go beyond that. We want all of our board members there. We want to invite landowners and developers and other members of the school district beyond just the superintendent to really sit around the same table and gain some knowledge of what these items are, how we could use them to grow Marshfield, and what the pros and cons are of each one, because every single one of them that I've ever run into, it had just as many cons as pros. So this will give us that opportunity. I put this policy in here just to basically plant the seeds, because from that education, I'm hoping the first of the year, when our agendas aren't as heavy from budget, we're going to be able to start picking at some of this information and building our own policy. The policy that's included from North Kansas City was developed by Matt in Stiefel. It's a great policy. It is one of the shortest economic development policies. City of Springfield's is well over 200 pages. And while I'm happy to get you electronic copies of it, I didn't think you really wanted a whole ream of paper delivered in your packet. So that one still sits on the back burner. But that's the whole reason this is in here, is just giving out some information, kind of planting some seeds for what's coming up in Grow Marshfield. I don't have any hard dates for you, but as soon as we do, I know we'll get them out there, and you can mark them on your calendars and hopefully join us so that we can all get on the same platform with these, and then come back at the first of the year and build a plan that's going to help not only us understand what our risk appetite is going to be, but to help our city employees talk with developers as certain development options come up, or realtors come through, especially as they're looking at that new corridor area. And we can immediately say, well, we're not interested in doing this type of a plan, but if you're doing this, then we might talk about it. And this isn't saying that if you're putting this project in, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z. This is saying that if you're putting this type of a project in, these are the things we're willing to talk about, and everything else is off the table. So it really goes a long way, I think, for us to build our understanding of this and our expectation. And then it helps our staff significantly be able to talk to those outside parties and build those relationships without us having to answer those questions. Any questions about where we're going with this, or what we're trying to accomplish?
Glad to see it.
Awesome. Well, that will roll us into future agenda items. Right off the bat, we will have the new City Hall update will be presented in the next meeting. We may continue to have a city administrator search. That meeting will be just the night before, so I may leave the topic on there in case there's something that needs to be discussed. But if not, we'll just glance over it in the next meeting. We will, of course, have our COVID update. The big item, the TEEP grant will come back as well for approval of whatever of those 4 documents that we need to do. Is that right, Sam? Okay.
Yep, there'll be an ordinance.
And then the big chunk of time will be presentation of the debt budgets and the enterprise fund, which is water and sewer. And those are already delivered to you at the table, and Rob and I will get ours soon. Definitely take any time, ask any questions that you would like to. I found when I was working on the finance team that I would just email Sam or email Monica, hey, I don't understand what this is. And oftentimes within a day or two, I had an answer back that didn't necessarily need to be discussed any further. It was either my misunderstanding of the line item, or it was just I didn't really understand the full depth of what that line item was. So I definitely encourage you to do that as well. Are there any other future agenda items?
Natalie, do you want to visit the emergency item?
Yes, we do. So we do have an emergency item that's going to be added to this agenda right now. The justification of that is it occurred at about 6:15 tonight. And so obviously we did not have time to notice this up, but it is definitely fits the scope of an emergency, and I'll let Sam explain.
Yeah, so it's not going to require you guys to have any action or take any action tonight. It's more explanatory and giving you guys some information of what's coming in the days to come. So basically you guys know how many improvements we have going on, and one of the improvements that we have going on is the SCADA replacement and updating the full SCADA system. Still unknown at this time what actually triggered the issue tonight, but I can tell you that the SCADA is basically the brains, right, that tells our pumps when to kick on, when to kick off, tells sends out the alarms, and it all works off the fiber and off of pressure transducers. For whatever reason, and this is the first time since we've had the system, right? And now we're on the old system. We're not on the new system yet. We're in the works of getting everything moved over. But we've had this other system since, I don't know, it's 12, 13 years old, whatever it is. We've never had an issue like this. State of Missouri DNR says that if a water system drops below 20 PSI for a system hole, then it's a mandatory boil order. When I arrived on scene, when Richard arrived on scene, the wells were not running. The SCADA controller never called for water, they were offline. We have redundant systems. Both systems, for whatever reason, were offline, something that we're currently looking into. But when we got here, it was about between 15 and 18 pounds. So it automatically triggers us to go into a mandatory boil order. So what does that look like for Marshall? That looks like later on tonight, there will be Facebook postings. It'll be posted on our website, and there will be a media release that will go out to the proper channels that how we always kick those out. Natalie has released those, Michael's released those, and so those will go out to obviously the newspapers and to the Color 10 and KY3 and all that. I've already spoken with DNR tonight, and we're following everything to a T, right? They asked me what we were planning on doing for notification. I laid out the plan that I just laid out for you all. They said then nothing further is needed for tonight and probably for tomorrow. The second portion of that is this is where it gets a little bit, this is what plays into the length of the boil order. Today's a Thursday. Tomorrow's a Friday. They don't take the labs that we use and the labs that are available unless they make an exception. They do not receive samples on Friday. They're a 24-hour test. They receive those the day of the sample. Then they put their ingredients in there to check them for the coliform, and then they sit, and then they notify you the next day. They don't work on Saturdays, and so I don't know if we can find a lab that will accept those and give us a result for Saturday. So we could be looking at Monday before we can pull samples, meaning that the boil order will stay in effect until those samples pass. The next step of that, though, is that they've got to pass 2 consecutive samples before the boil order could be lifted. Meaning that if it's Monday before we can take our first sample, if Monday samples all pass, then we'll take another one Tuesday. If all of those pass, then the boil order will be lifted and it will go out in the same response as what we're putting the notice out. This is different than you guys have probably have received a low pressure advisory. That low pressure advisory is an advisory that we voluntarily put out. We're not required to do so, but we voluntarily put those out for anybody with a low or compromised immune system. And basically what that low pressure advisory is saying is that we know that we've had to shut your water down under the 20 PSI or to the 20 PSI mark, and that there could be a reason for you to, if you're worried about it, that there could be a reason for you to boil your water until we take these samples, until we get these sample results back. Normally, it's just when we do those low pressure advisories, they are consolidated down to the area that it affected. And basically what that consists of is whatever we can valve off and isolate in an area, that's the affected area. The bad thing with this tonight is that it was sporadic and it was all over town. It was everywhere. I've been here, this is my 20th year here. I have never been a part of a system-wide failure like this. And so we'll hit it head on, right? And we'll answer any questions that we might have. But the whole reason for a boil order is that a water system works off of pressure. And so with 20 PSI or more, nothing can get into the line, right? No, these are all buried underground. So nothing can protrude or make its way into the ground. Less than 20, you run the risk of something getting in and contaminating your water main or your water line. Like I said, there are a series of tests that we have to go through. There's a series of samples that we'll have to go through. The same procedure that we're taking to notify everybody that we have an issue will be the same. Will be the same for going out. It would not surprise me to have just everybody's phones to be ringing off the hook, including the poor girls in the front office at City Hall. I will tell you, it will probably be a nightmare for the next week for them. For you all, it will be the same thing, right? We have no reason to believe that anything is going to be out of the ordinary, but that is obviously the reason for the boil order, right? We cannot guarantee that it is 100% the same that it was prior to losing pressure, but we have no reason to believe that anything else got in there and contaminated anything. That's what you're going to be facing from the PR side of things, and you're going to get asked about it later on tonight. If you've noticed, my head's been down most of the night, and I apologize for not being super prepared for tonight, but my phone has just been blowing up. And so you guys will probably either get that later on tonight or tomorrow, especially once those postings go out. That's going to raise a lot of questions and concerns. A lot of people are probably looking at it right now saying, hey, my water's back up, no big deal. It actually triggers a response for us at this point, though, and you'll see that go out later on tonight.
Time frame
Thank you, sir.
might go out.
Time frame that'll go out. I've probably got there's a few different documents, right? I'm going to try to get it all wrapped up within the next hour, but I will not promise to that. There's like I said, we've got to write a media release. We've got to get the posting ready. We've got to get the notice ready. We've got to get it all out there, and then we got to get it. There's several things that go into it, so I'm hoping I'd say within the next couple hours for sure.
Okay. With that, are there any other future agenda items? All right. And I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Hey, Natalie, if I could, before they make that motion, just a quick FYI. I do believe that next Friday, so a week from tomorrow, that our contractors are going to be pulling in to pave the square. And so I look for a week from this Sunday for you probably, if everything goes well and we don't run into any of the risk factors that we've been looking at and we don't break through, I look for you guys to have a finished product by the following Sunday. FYI.
Awesome. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First and a second, all in favor?
Probably need to get Rob back in there there you go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.